Kripa bindu diya koroe dase vinapekayati hina Kripa bindu diya Gurudev Kripa Bindu Diya Koroe Dase Vinapekayati Hina Diya Sakala sahane bolo diya koro nijamane srihahina Sakale samman korite shakati dehonata jata jata Tabito gaibo harinama sukhe aparada habehata Kobehe no kripa labhaye jano pritartha hoye venata Shakti bhurihi Ami ati din Ghoramore Atmasata Jogyata vichare kichunahi pai Tomara karuna saro Karuna na hoile kandiya kandiya prananara hiko aro Gurudev Kripa Bindu Diya Koroe Dase Vinapeka Otihina Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Oh hey Vaishnava Thakura Dwayara Sagara Dasa karuna kori Oh hey Vaishnava Thakur Dwayara Sagara Dasa karuna kori Diyapadachaya Sorohe Amai Tomara Charana Dhori Chaya Begadoni Chaya Dosha Shodhi Chaya Guna Deho Dase Chaya Satsanga Deho He Amare Boshashi Shangera Ashe Ekaki Amar Nahi Pai Balo Harinama Sankirtane Tumi Kripa Kori Shadha Bindu Diya Deha Krishna Nama Dane Krishna se tomar, Krishna dite paro, tomara shakti ache. Amito Ganga Krishna Krishna Boli Dayata Pache Pache Oh hey Vaishnava Thakur Joyara Sagara Edase Karuna Kori Jaya Vaishnava Thakur Vaishnava Thakur Vaishnava Thakur Jaya Vaishnava Thakur Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jaya Prabhupada. Parama Karuna, Parama Karuna, Pahundri Jana. Nitai Gaura Chandra Sorry. Parama Karuna Pahundri Jana Nitai Gaura Chandra Sabhavata Sarashinamani Kevalaya Nanda Kanda Bajo Bajo Bai Chaitanya Nitai Surira Vishwasa Kori Vishaya Chariya Shiroshi Majia Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari Deko Ore Bai Subuvane Nai Emona Doya La Data Poshu Pakhi Chure Pashana Vidare Shunijar Gunagata Shari Mojia, Rohili Podia, Chepari Nahio Asha. Apana Karama, Punjaye Shamana, Goeo Lochana Dasa. Parama Karuna Pahundri Janam Nitai Gaura Chandra Nitai Gaura Chandra Jaya Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Jaya Gaura Nitai. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Kali Kukur Kali Kukur Kadam Jari Chao Hey Any Bengalis? Bengali in the house? Okay. Tell us the meaning. Give them the mic. The first line. No, use the mic. Here.
If you want the crying of a dog, crying of a dog of Kali Yuga. Kali Kukur means dog and Kadan means crying. So Kali Kukur Kadan means crying of a dog of Kali Yuga. And Jodi Chao Hai means if you want that.
If you don't want it, right? If you want to avoid the menacing
Kali
dog,
Kukur Kadan Jodi Chao Hai.
put the translation. If you want to be rid of the menace of the dog-like personality of Kali, say yes.
Yes.
Then just sing the glories of the beautiful son of Mother Sachinandan. Everyone say Sachinandan. Sachinandan! He is the savior of the Kali Yuga Pavana.
Kali Yuga Pavana!
And he is the destroyer of all fear caused by the age of quarrel. Kali Bhoi Nashana. And say, now say in Bengali, Kali Bhoi Nashana. You say it. Kali Bhoi Nashana. Haribo! Kali Kukur Kadan Jari Chao Hai Kali Yuga Pavana Kali Kali Boyanashana, Sri Satchinandana Gao Hey. Gadadhar Madhan Nityaye Pranadan Advaita Prapujita Gora Nimani Vishwambar Srinivas Ishwar Bhakta Samuha Chitta Chora Nariya Shashadar Maya Purishwa Nam Pravartana Sura Jana Shikshaka Nasikula Nayaka Madhava Radha Bhava Pura Sarvabhauma Shorana Gajapati Tarana Ramananda Poshana Veera Rupananda Vardhana Sanatana Palunda Haridas Bodhana Dhira Gujarat Bhavana Dishamakta Shasana Kapati Vikatana Kama Shuddha Bhakta Palana Shiksha Jnana Karana Chala Bhakti Dushana Rama Kali Kukur Karan Jadi Chao Hey Kali Yuga Pavana Koli Boy Nashana Sri Satchinandana Kao Hey Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Chapter 8, Bhagavad Gita, please. Taraka Brahma Yoga, Ata Ashtamod Adhyayaha. Arjunuvacha Kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama adibhutam cha kim proktam adidaivam kimuchyate adiyagya katam kotra dehesmin madhusudana prayana kali chakatam geyosi niyatatmabhi Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Sabhavodhyatma Muchyate Uta Bhavodbhava Karo Visarga Karma Sangjita Adibhutam Sharo Bhava Purushashchari Daivatam Adiyagyohame Vatra Dehe Deha Vratambara Antakale chamameva smaranukva kalevaram ya prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra shangshaya yang vapi smaran bhavam gajatyante kalevaram tam evaite kaunteya sadatad bhava bhavita Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmarad yudhyacha mayarpita mano buddhir mami vaishyasya samshaya abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasananyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati parthanuchintayan Kavim Puranam Manushashitaram Anodaniyam Samanusmeridyaha Sarvasya Tataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parasta Prayana Kale Manasa Chalena Bhaktya Yukto Yoga Balena Chaiva Ruvor madhye pranamavesha samyak satam param purusham upaiti divyam yadaksharam veda vado vadanti vishanti yadyatayo vitaraga yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tate param sangrahena pravakshe sarvadvarani samyamya Manohridhi narudhyacha Murdhyantayatmana pranam Astito yoga dharanam Om itekaksharam brahma Yaharan mam anusmaran Yaprayati tajandeham Sayati paramam gatim Ananya cheta satatam Yo mam smarati nityasha Tasyaham sulabha partha nitya yuktasya yogina mamupetya punarjanma dukalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gata abrahma bhuvana loka punar avartino arjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya Punarjanma vidyate Sahasra yuga paryantam Arhatyad brahmano vidu Ratrim yuga sahasrantam Teho ratra vidojana Avyaktad vyaktaya sarva Pravavatya haragame Ratyagame praliyante Tatraivabhyakta samgyake Bhutagrama sa evayam Bhutva bhutva praliyate Ratyagame vashaparta Prabhavatya haragame Parastasmatu bhavonyo Vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha Yaksak sarveshu bhuteshu Nashyatsu na vinashyati Avyakto shara ityuktas Tamahu paramam gatim Yam prapyana nivartante Taddama paramam mama Purusha sa parapartha Bhaktya swananyaya yasyantastani bhutani yena sarvam mitam tatam yatra kale tvanavritim avritim chaiva yogina prayata yanti tam kalam bakshami bharatarshabha agnir jyotir ahashukla shanmasa uttarayanam tatra prayata gachanti brahma brahma vidojana tumo ratristata krishna shanmasa dakshanayinam tatra chandrama samjyotir yogi prapya nivartate shukla krishne gati yete jagata shashvate mate ekaya yatyanavratim anyaya vartate punaha naite sriti partha janan yogi muhyati kashtana tasmat sarveshu kadeshu yoga yukto bhavarjana vedeshu yagyeshu tapasu chaiva daneshu yat punya palam pratishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam varidva yogi param stanam upaiti chadyam Om Tat Sariti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Taraka Brahma Yogo Nama Ashtamodhyayaha Hari Om Gaur Premanande Haribo Srimad Bhagavatam class. Do you have the Krishna Lila Stava? There's a. Do you have a Shri Krishna Lila Stava? Yeah. Okay. Do you have that on the? You have it on the Veda base?
It's in KK song.
What's the Shastasar Prada? What's the name of the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam at the end of the Krishna Lila Stava? Oh, do you have it? Yeah, please. Could you help them look it up? So from now on, we'll chant this before we do Bhagavatam. Right? Because then if we keep adding parts on, then pretty soon all we'll do is just hear and chant all day. There'll be no time for anything else. You can call in sick.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I just pasted in the chat. I think it's there in the KK song also.
It's there in...
KK song.
It's there in the chat. That's quite some chat. What kind of chat do you have at the Hare Krishna temple? Glorification of the Srimad Bhagavatam from Srila Sanatana Goswami. That's some good chat. Come by the Hare Krishna temple for a little chat. Uh-oh. This one's bound to have some different translation, no? If we can find the other translation, because I'll bet KK doesn't have the one from the Brihad Bhagavatamrita.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, let's chant the Sanskrit, and then somebody else can find the proper translation. It's in the Brihad. No, it's in the Krishna Lila Stava. Maybe it's on the Veda base. No. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shamalangi, maybe a project, a little PowerPoint. It's only 4 or 5 verses. We'll do Jaya Radhamadava while they're looking at number 3. Hare Krishna.
I got it, Maharaj. It's, Saddha Mataji has made the previously slides.
Could you hear Prabhu? There's already a slide available. This has been thought of before, just not utilized. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari. Gopi Janna Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tiravanachari. Jamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One more time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Double. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama One more time. Everybody now. Come on. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Go Premanande Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Nice if we had a copy of Krishna Lila stuff in the library anyway. I mean, not now, but later. We can procure it because it's nice to have everything. Can you all see it? Yes. That's good. Okay. Let's do the Sanskrit and English for those of you who can see. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Trikpada. So somebody can see, use the microphone and then read the English. They'll lead the English because I can't see it. He can see. He knows.
O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds.
Sarva Bhagavata Prana Shrima Bhagavata Prabho Kalitvananuditya Shri Krishna Parivartita.
O life air of the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna.
Paramananda Pitaya Prema Varshacharayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume.
I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself.
Mad tat kandamat sangin mat guru mad mahadana manistarada mad bhagya adananda namostute.
My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you.
Asadu sadhu tatayin atititat sharakara hanamuncha kalachinmam premna hrit kathayospura.
O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasa Tato Jayamudiraye. We're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 8, chapter 18, Lord Vamana, the dwarf incarnation. This chapter describes how Lord Vamandev appeared and how he went to the sacrificial arena of Maharaj Bali, who received him well and fulfilled his desire for offering him benedictions. Lord Vamana appeared in this world from the womb of Aditi, completely equipped with conch shell, disc, club, and lotus. His bodily hue was blackish, and he was dressed in yellow garments. Lord Vishnu appeared at an auspicious moment on Shravana Dwadashi, when the Abhijit star had risen. At that time, in all the three worlds, including the higher planetary systems, outer space, and this earth, all the demigods, the cows, the brahmanas, and even the seasons were happy because of God's appearance. Therefore, this auspicious day is called Vijaya. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has a Satchit Ananda body, appeared as the son of Kashyapa and Aditi, both his parents were very astonished. After his appearance, the Lord assumed the form of a dwarf, Vaman. All the great sages expressed their jubilation, and with Kashyapa Muni before them, they performed the birthday ceremony of Lord Vamana. At the time of Lord Vamanadev's sacred thread ceremony, he was honored by the sun god, Brahaspati, the goddess presiding over the planet Earth, the deity of the heavenly planets, his mother, Lord Brahma, Kuvera, the 7 rishis, and others. Lord Vamanadev then visited the sacrificial arena on the northern side of the Narmada River, at the field known as Bhrigu Kacha, where the Brahmanas of the Bhrigu dynasty were performing yagyas. Wearing a belt made of munja straw, an upper garment of deerskin, and a sacred thread, and carrying in his hands a danda, an umbrella, and a water pot, kamandalu, Lord Vamanadev appeared in the sacrificial arena of Maharaj Bali. Because of his transcendently effulgent presence, all the priests were diminished in their prowess, and thus they all stood from their seats and offered prayers to Lord Vamanadev. Even Lord Shiva accepts on his head the Ganges water generated from the toe of Lord Vamanadev. Therefore, after washing the Lord's feet, Bali Maharaj immediately accepted the water from the Lord's feet on his head and felt that he and his predecessors had certainly been glorified. Then Bali Maharaj inquired of Lord Vamanadev's welfare and requested the Lord to ask him for money, jewels, or anything else he might desire. Just checking on oxygen situation here. What is the level on the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being fully oxygenated? Is the door open? The front door's open? Back door open? We have nothing against air here at ISV because it enriches the brain. It's a machine that has to have oxygen and glucose. Text number 1. Shukadev Goswami said, after Lord Brahma had thus spoken, glorifying the Supreme Lord's activities and prowess, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is never subject to death like an ordinary living being, appeared from the womb of Aditi. His 4 hands were decorated with a conch shell club, lotus, and disc. He was dressed in yellow garments, and his eyes appeared like the petals of a blooming lotus. Purport. The word Amrita Bhu is significant in this verse. The Lord sometimes appears like an ordinary child taking birth, but this does not mean that he is subject to birth, death, or old age. One must be very intelligent to understand the appearance and activities of the Supreme Lord in his incarnations. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvataha. One should try to understand that the Lord's appearance and disappearance and his activities are all divyam, or transcendental. The Lord has nothing to do with material activities. One who understands the appearance, disappearance, and activities of the Lord is immediately liberated, and after giving up his body, he never again has to accept a material body, but is transferred to the spiritual world. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti sorjuna. The body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, blackish in complexion, was free from all inebrities. Somebody look up that word, inebrities, and figure out how you're supposed to pronounce it. Huh? Some people say inebrieties, but then again, if you have a Webster's dictionary, it tells you the translation. Don't mind, but this has been bugging me for a long time. Inebriety? Thank you. Who said that? Oxford said it? Inebriety.
Inebriety.
Inebriety. And could we have the etymology of the word, please? Pass the mic, please, to the research team.
Inebriety is a noun, and it means state or habit of being intoxicated. From the early 15th century, from Latin ebrietatem, which means drunkenness, intoxication, from ebrius, drunk, full, sated with drink, and it's from an uncertain origin, but also from Proto-Indo-European, hey-ro, and the root hey, which means to drink.
Thank you. Where was the word? Where was it? 6:2. The body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, blackish in complexion, was free from all inebrieties. There must be an older meaning to it as well. Maybe you look it up in the OED, Oxford English Dictionary. It tells the history of the word. Of course, you may have to subscribe. I'm not sure. His lotus face, decorated with earrings resembling sharks, appeared very beautiful, and on his bosom was the mark of Srivatsa. If anybody's at home and you have an OED, please look it up, inebriety, and see what the history of the word is. He wore bangles on his wrists, armlets on his arms, a helmet on his head, a belt on his waist, a sacred thread across his chest, and ankle bells decorating his lotus feet. An uncommonly beautiful garland of flowers decorated his bosom, and because the flowers were extremely fragrant, a large group of bees, making their natural humming sounds, invaded them for honey. When the Lord appeared, wearing the Kaustuba gem on his neck, his effulgence vanquished the darkness and the home of Prajapati Kashyapa. At that time, there was happiness in all directions, in the reservoirs of water like the rivers and oceans, and in the core of everyone's heart. The various seasons displayed their respective qualities, and all living entities in the upper planetary systems, in outer space, and on the surface of the earth were jubilant. The demigods, the cows, the brahmanas, and the hills and mountains were all filled with joy. On the day of Shravana Dwadashi, the 12th day of the bright fortnight of the month of Bhadra, when the moon came into the lunar mansion Shravana, at the auspicious moment of Abhijit, the Lord appeared in this universe. Considering the Lord's appearance very auspicious, all the stars and planets, from the sun to Saturn, were magnificently charitable. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, an expert astrologer, explains the word nakshatra taradya. The word nakshatra means the stars. The word tara in this context refers to the planets, and adya means the first one specifically mentioned. Among the planets, the first is Surya, the sun, not the moon. Therefore, according to the Vedic version, the modern astronomers' proposition that the moon is nearest to the earth should not be accepted. the chronological order in which people all over the world refer to the days of the week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, corresponds to the Vedic order of the planets, and thus circumstantiates the Vedic version. Could you look up the word circumstantiate? Apart from this, when the Lord appeared, the planets and stars became situated very auspiciously according to astrological calculations to celebrate the birth of the Lord. Circumstantiate.
Circumstantiate is a verb, and it means set forth or support with circumstances or details.
And break it down, please, where it came from. Circum means like completely or around, like parikrama, something to go around completely. Circumstand means like understand, or stita, like a place where you're situated. Circumstantiate is just a way to make it into a noun.
Okay.
Circumstantiation.
Circumstance, the word circum is around, and then stare, which means to stand. So to stand, make, or be firm.
So circumstantiate, the word is used in this, corresponds to the Vedic order of the planets and thus circumstantiates the Vedic version. So it's a way that is recommended that one go about coming to a conclusion is to circumstantiate. You have to look from all angles. For instance, in the Brahma Sutras, the author makes a statement and then gives the Purva Paksha, and means that you argue against your own statement, and then you present the flaws in the argument against the statement so that there's a full circumstantiation of the topic, which means to come to a siddhanta, which means that you're perfectly pointed, that you understand exactly what it is and also what it isn't. And therefore, in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kaviraj Goswami says, Siddhanta bolya chita nakara alash iha hoite Krishna loge shudrid manosh, which means that one shouldn't be lazy to circumstantiate the points that are made in the Shastra, because, he says, if you take the time, then shudrid manosh, your mind becomes very determined and steady, because you know what is what. If you're unclear about various aspects of the philosophy, then you may harbor some doubt and think, well, how could that be? Maybe I'll go somewhere else. But if you take some time to circumstantiate things, then you become very solid in your practice. Sudrid means fully determined. So he said that's really necessary to take time. So tachchadadhana munayo jnana vairagya yuktaya pasyantyatmani chatmanam bhaktya shruta grihitaya. We find in the first canto, second chapter of the Bhagavatam, which verse is that? Tachchadadhana munayo. We know what 1:1:11 is, and we also know what 1:2:11 is, but what is tachchadadhana munayo? Where is it situated? 12, it's the next verse. So who knows which verse is 1:2:11? That's right. It's a famous verse. Vadanti tat tat vavidas tatvam yajganamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdite. And so this is a mention that it is said by the authorities that the absolute truth, Advaya Gyan Tattva, is one without a second, but he has varieties. And those varieties are known as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Iti means it is said. We've heard from authorities. Iti shabdite. Iti is like quotation marks. So it's said by them. And then the next verse is important. It says, Tashtradhana munayo jnana vairagya yuktaya pashyantyatmani chatmanam bhaktashuta grihitaya, which means that, word for word, tat, that. Shradhana, seriously inquisitive. So interestingly that, like in the Bhagavatam, when Sutta Goswami was promoted to the point of the leader of all the sages in Naimisharanga, he was called Ugrashava. And this word Ugrashava means, you know Ugra Nishringa? You know Ugra Karma? It's like fierce, incredibly heavy. Ugra. Rah! And Ugrashava means somebody who's just totally leaned into hearing. Ugrashrava. They just made it their whole existence is to hear the Vedic wisdom, as also mentioned in the Bhagavatam later on. Tasmad gurum prapadyeta jignasu shreya uttamam shabde paritanishnatam brahman upashramashrayam. One who's qualified to speak about the absolute truth is one who's shabde brahma janishnatam. They've taken a dip in the ocean of transcendental knowledge. They actually swam around in there. And then they come out like drenched. So Ugrashrava is a very important point. Shradhana, as seriously inquisitive, means somebody who actually leans into hearing and hears all the relevant topics in a faithful way, faithful to one's lineage and one's guru. The mood is important also. Not that I just go here, there, and everywhere collecting information. In fact, there's an admonition given in the Krishna Bhajanamrita by Narhari Chakravarti, Narhari Sakar Thakur, whose samadhi you'll definitely run into when you go to the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, because when you're doing the circumambulation, his samadhi's right there at the caddy corner, was a good word to use, I think, here, to Rupa and Sanatan's samadhi, just going around the corner. It's right there at the end. You can offer obeisances. He wrote a book called Sri Krishna Bhajanamrita. And in it he talks about the mood of the devotee, how we should appreciate all Vaishnavas. One of the ways he talks about it is that the Ganga has ripples and little waves sometimes. And he says whether the ripple is big or small, it's still the Ganga. So whether a devotee is big or small, in estimation of the society, say, well, that's just a little devotee, or there's a big devotee here, but still it's Ganga water, still is worshipable. And he goes on to say that when one accepts guidance in the parampara system and accepts a guru, that even when one goes and takes information from others, that he should bring that information back to the guru and say, you know, this is what I collected, and offer it first to the guru, and then the guru also substantiates, is accepted in the right mood. So he said that in that way, one should carefully tune oneself to the mood of the sampradaya. So in this verse, Shradhana, seriously inquisitive, also means the mood in which one collects. Because, as is mentioned in the Shastra, that if one is faithful to Guru and Krishna, then all the imports of Vedic knowledge become available. Does anybody know the verse? So take the mic and you can say it.
यस्य देवे परा भक्तिर यथा देवे तथा गुरो तस्यैत्य कथिता हि अर्थे प्रकाशन्ते महात्मनः.
Can you say the meaning basically?
To those who are faithful to both the Supreme Lord and they have full faith in the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master, all the imports of the Vedic truths are revealed.
Yes, and we find this also with Sutta Goswami, is mentioned in the first canto, first chapter about Sutta Goswami. What verse am I thinking? 7, 8. What's the first word?
I don't have to find out.
Canto 1, Chapter 1, text number.
To the loyal disciple.
Huh? Thank you. Vetatam saumya tat sarvam tatvatas tadanugrahat bruyu snignasya shishyasya guravo guyamapyuta. So this verse is number 8. Number 8. Now we know what 118 is too, right? It says Vetatvam. So this is the sages at Naimisharanya who are speaking to Sutta Goswami as they've invited him to sit down after his father was killed by Balaram. Balaram detected the wrong mood. And in the first speaker, Romaharshan, and he executed him with a little kusha straw. He just picked up a little kusha blade and he went ding, and then all the sages said, wait a minute, we already endowed him with our blessings for a long life. And then they looked through the manual and they said, it's transferable. So they gave it to his son. And then glorifying the son, they said, Veta tvam saumya tat sarvam tatvatas tadanugrahat bruyu snigdhasya shishyasya guravo kuyamapyuta. So this explains why Sutta Goswami was qualified to speak before all these sages. So the first word is Veta. You are well conversant. So the way one becomes well conversant with spiritual knowledge is to listen. Tachadadhana. One has to be listen faithfully. That means that you're open, you have an open mind, open heart. Prabhupada recommends this in the Bhagavad Gita. When you first start reading the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says, at least theoretically accept that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is a nice trick. Because if a person who's maybe skeptical then opens the Bhagavad Gita, says, what is all this? And there is no God. And they say, okay, no problem. But just theoretically accept it for now. And then listen in that vein, with that mood. So Veta, then if one listens in that mood for a long time, then the sound vibration goes in the ear and it fills up the heart, and one naturally becomes conversant in the Vedic knowledge, because the human body is perfectly equipped for this type of hearing, that if you hear submissively, then you'll learn everything. No need for any extra paraphernalia. Then Twang, your honor, they're addressing him in a respectful way. They say Somya. That Somya means gentle, pure and simple. This is the mood. Tat, those. Sarvam, all. Tatvata, in fact. Tat, there. Anugrahat, by their favor. So this word anugrahat. So graha means a grabber, like the stars are called the grahas, because by the force of the stars, we're influenced to see the world in a particular way. So at a certain time at certain eras in your life, when there are influences of the stars that come in a certain way, then we see the world through that lens. And that's why we're being grabbed, pulled along by the modes of nature that are being projected through various forces in the universe, especially the controllers of the universe. And so anugrahat means one who takes one. Anu means to follow, and graha means to grab. So if you grab someone and make them follow you, this is anugraha. Because you're taking them somewhere better. Like if somebody's about to get hit by a train and you grab them and you pull them off the tracks, then you'll be on TV. Someone will get it on their cell phone, and then it's like, wow, he grabbed them, pulled them off the tracks. What a great hero. So those who grab people from the material world and pull them off the dangerous tracks where they're about to get smashed by death, and they say, no, come this way. This is anugrahat. So he received the favor of his gurus. They favored him because of his mood, and therefore they pulled him along. So this is also mentioned by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, where he says that tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadakshantite jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. Find somebody who's already filled up with knowledge, and so they know they have tattvadarshina. They see tattva. Tat means that which is real, and tat is cognated in English with that. You just put an H in it and it's that. What is it? That is a demonstrative pronoun. You're pointing at something and say that. Somebody who's tattvadarshi means somebody who understands what's real and what's not real. Vedanta is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Nasato vidite bhavo, nabhavo vidite sata, uvayorapi drishton tas tvanayos tattvadarshi. Again, the tattvadarshi is there. And it's Krishna's mentioning some energies, they're insubstantial, they're wispy, they're always changing, they're called bhava. They're always becoming something else. You go to get it and it's like, wait, what? Where'd it go? I was just a young man, now I'm an old man. Then there's everything changes in front of our eyes. And this is called bhava, the world where everything is becoming something else. It's always in the stage of becoming. And then there's another energy that one can identify. It's another tattva, another category of energy, which is always the same. It's substantial. It's something you can depend on, unlike the material world. So nasato vidite bhavo, nabhavo vidite sata, ubayor api dushton tas. Ubayor means both of these things. A tattvadarshi means he knows the difference between the two. He doesn't get faked out and think, oh, I'll set up shop here in the material world and everything will be fine. What do you think? Not a good idea. I'll live happily ever after. Oh, no, you won't. Even I knew that as a kid. My parents would read the end of the book, say, they lived happily ever after. I said, wait a minute. This doesn't sound right. It's like, no, forget about it. Just go to bed. So a tattvadarshi doesn't do that. Tattvadarshi says, no, let's analyze it. Let's actually look at what's real and what's not real. So if one has the wherewithal to understand these two things, then you can approach that person who knows what's real, where everything comes from, and tadvidi pranipatena, go there with an open mind, in submissiveness. Pariprashnena, be inquisitive. The word question comes from the word quest. Quest, actually, if you trace back the word etymologically, it means the search for the Holy Grail. And there's a whole story about that. You know, how humankind, people, they want to find that one place, that elixir they can take where everything will be okay. Because we have a sense that everything should be okay, but it's just not. You know, why are people disappearing? Why is everything changing? Why can't I have what I want? It's because you didn't find the Holy Grail. And so a quest really means to search that thing out. That we hear in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, now rupamasyeha tatopa labhyate nanto nachadir nachasamprachishta ashvatamenam suvarudamulam asanga shastrena dritena chitva tatat padam tat parimargitavyam yasmin katana nirvatanti bhuya tameva chadyam purusham prapadye yatak praviti prashita parani. That just educate yourself about what's temporary, this material world. Admit that you're lost. Don't be all puffed up. It's like, no, I'll find my way on my own. Don't do that. Narupa maseha, you don't know where you are. You're lost. And so he said, then become a little pessimistic about the material world and don't invest in it. And so you leave that behind. This is tapas. Like, no more. I'll just cut this off. I'll look somewhere else. Once you do that, he said, then you have tatak param tat. Now you can look for tat, that which you can point to. Om tad Vishnu paramam param sada. Pashanti suryo diviva chaksha tatam te vipraso vipanyavo jagravamsaha. Saminda te Vishnu yat paramam param. You're here, but now you're free to look towards that abode that always exists. And parimargitavya means you make the journey, you make the quest. Now you can go for it and back to the source of everything. So when you come pariprashnena, when you come with questions which are specifically so that you can make this quest, like it's a hero's journey. You came here, you got lost. Okay, now cut your losses, and as they say, if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. then make your great journey towards that which actually exists, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when you ask a question or somebody who's already knows the categories of knowledge and can direct you there, then this is pariprashnena. Ask those questions, not questions that give you, not inane questions that give you information that's not helpful for going back to Godhead. Sevaya means that you should feel some gratitude towards that person and give some service, because then their heart will open up and they'll give you everything. And tadvidi pariprashnena sevaya uprakshate jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. So these are 3 jewels you can wear around your wrist, or you can make a necklace. And those are the jewel of submissive inquiry. And then the second one is to ask good questions. And the third is to offer seva. And if you keep these 3 in mind, these powerful gems, then you can understand everything when you ask the right person. So, Vetatom somya tat sarvam tatvatas tadanugrahat bruyu snigdasya shishasya. We're lost. Guravo guyamapyuta. It's back to the verse I think we were talking about, where Sutta Goswami is being exalted as somebody who's gone through this process. And so, anugrahat, by the favor of those great sages, bruyu snigdasya, he's submissive, shishyasya, he was a great disciple. Gurava, the spiritual masters, guyam, they've given all their secrets to you. And apiyuta, you're endowed with this comprehensive knowledge because you're submissive, and your gurus were anugrahat. They just pulled you along because they liked you a lot. Om Tat Sat. So, Tachstradadhana Munayo Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya. This is 128. And we're just finishing the point. That's Tachstradadhana. You should be Shradadhana, be very eager to hear and submissive, open to hearing. Tachstradadhana. You go back to 128. Munayo, the Muni, the intelligent person, Tatvatas, Tadanugrahat. 1 to 12, sorry. That's right. It comes right after 11. Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya. So you need these to fortify yourself on the path. Gyan means knowledge. So if you have knowledge, which means to know the difference between matter and spirit, but you don't have Vairagya, which means detachment, then what are you going to do with that knowledge? And if you have detachment, but you don't have knowledge, you don't know how to employ that sense of detachment in a proper way. So you have to have these 2 things together. They go together. Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya. So you're able to utilize these 2 things. And then Pashyantyatmani Chatmanam. Bhaktya Shruta Grihitaya. Please go down just a little bit to the end of the word for word. Means that Bhaktya Shruta Grihitaya. You have to be thoughtful, you have to have knowledge, and you have to be detached. Fortunately, we learn that these things come naturally by chanting Hare Krishna and performing devotional service, but it's also, and Prabhupada emphasizes that you should hear the literature written by Krishna and by the Goswamis, so that you're fully fortified with knowledge. Otherwise, it's very, very easy to have your devotional service morph into some other mood. And there are lots of moods that developed after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left the world. Some were in over a dozen different kind of deviant ideas and moods for practicing that had to be sorted out later by the great acharyas. So I'll just take a few reflections to make the conversation, to make it a conversation and to make it more stimulating and interesting. Is that possible? Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. There is a very nice verse from the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. You may know this, and I'm just repeating for your pleasure. Similar to the Snigdasya Shishasya verse. It says, the Vedas say that to a loyal disciple, one may speak the confidential secret. Therefore, O most fortunate one, now please hear the glories of Goloka.
Can you say the word for that?
I don't have the Sanskrit.
It doesn't have it, okay.
It's
Read
from
it,
the Brihad
translation
Bhagavatamrita.
again, one more time.
The Vedas say that to a loyal disciple, one may speak the confidential secret. Therefore, O most fortunate one, now please hear the glories of Goloka. I'll find the Sanskrit.
Okay. Thank you for entering that into evidence. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you so much for the class. I really like the point about Ugrashrava. I also used to think, what does that mean? But this is really nice. Fiercely attached to hearing, or intensely attached to hearing in the disciplic succession. I have a question, Guru Maharaj, regarding the chronology. So we study that Lord Balram killed Romharshan, and Suta Goswami took over to recite Srimad Bhagavatam. But Srimad Bhagavatam was already spoken by Shukdev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. And by that time, Lord Balram and Krishna, they had already left the planet when this was spoken to Parikshit Maharaj. Even the Arjuna, even the Pandavas had left. So now, how do we understand that in the present context, Lord Balram has killed Romharshan, and then Suta Goswami is taking over the recitation?
Does anybody have a ready answer? Because otherwise we could research and get back to you. I'm not so good at chronology. Mark it and we'll come back with a suitable answer.
Thank you.
Yes? Here, he has it.
Maharaj, I had a reflection. You mentioned that bhava means everything that changes. So I was just reflecting that, like you also mentioned, that one cannot step into the same river twice, or our body is also continuously changing in which we are staying. So I was just reflecting, bhava means everything that changes.
Yes, that's true. Just following up on these couple of points, when I was in Italy and I was talking about something, I think japa at some point, and I said it was important to have, the translator, heard what I was saying and came up with the word ferocious. And in Italian, I think I remember it's feroce. Feroce japa. So you have ferocious japa, ugra japa. What's your japa? What's your secret? Ugra japa, feroce japa. And also hearing, you should be feroce shravana. Feroce shravana, you should hear ferociously. And then you become ugrashava, like a ferocious hearer. And then you had said about bhava. And this point comes up again and again, because even in the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear muyanti yat surayaha, that even the devas get faked out by the material world. So you better be careful when you're looking around, that they see all the elements mixing together, and because the Supreme Magician is behind them all, Parasha Shaktir Vivadaiva Shriyate Swabhavika Jnana Balakriya Cha. One of the points about Bhagavan is that he has unlimited Shakti. Ekadesha Stitasyagner Joshna Vistaraniyata Parasya Brahmana Shaktis Yatedam Akilam Jagat. That just as a fire or the sun is in one place, but it manifests its energies everywhere. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has unlimited potencies that are working inconceivably. And so that his material energy appears to be one thing, but it's another, and it's constantly changing and morphing. So the opening statement in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we should look at. Just look at the first verse. He says that, from the translation, we'll see that the elements of the material world are constantly shifting and they look like something else. And therefore you shouldn't. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, verse 1. Chapter 1, verse 1. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadhyasa yaton bayad itaratash charte swabhigna sorad. Teni brahma hridaya kaveye muhyanti yatsuraya. Tejo vari mirdam. That's the part. Tejo vari mirdam. You see Tejo, fire, vari mirdam. So let's look at the translation. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion. As one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire and land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, who is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. So there's this sleight of hand here in the material world that one should rise above. And one of the verses given by the Yogendras, the Nava-Yogendras, it's actually by Krishna to Uddhava in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where he says that Shruti Pratyakshamitiyam Anumanam Chatushtayam Praneshvavanarastanad. What's the last line? Praneshvanabhanastanad. Anyway, Vikalpat Savirajite means that you should use 4 kinds of evidence to convince yourself that the material world is not a substantial place. So, avastanat means, so stanat we already talked about, it means like it's steady, it's solid, it's a place you can stand. But the material world is avastanat. Avastanat means you can't stand here. You ever get moved along? It's very agitating. I was outside distributing books in New York City once. I had a little trolley I was pulling along. And it was way down on the sidewalk. The stores were way up on steps, way up high. And I was just distributing along this little strip. And one of the owners came down and said, "Could you please move?" Still bugs me. I'm trying to get over it. I forgive him. Hare Krishna. But we're always getting moved along in the material world. It's avastanat. You can't stand here. Someone will come along and go, "Could you move?" It's like, wait a minute. I worked hard. I got a degree. I made $2 million. I have it in the bank. And it's like, can you move now? It's like, but that's mine. It's like, not anymore. Get out of here. And that's the material world. So he said, use that kind of evidence to convince yourself. Vastanat. Sa virajite. If virajite means take a little chill pill, buddy. Don't get all wrapped up in this temporary material world. It's changing all the time. So he said, Shruti, you should hear about it from the Shastra. Hear the Shastra. The Shastra is wiser than you are. is the implication, take their word for it. They know what they're talking about. Don't get all like, oh yeah, wait a minute, what about science? I know everything. And then Shruti pratyaksham, see for yourself. Pratyaksha means take a look around and just see. Don't be pashyana pina pashyati. This is something that Shukadeva Goswami warns about in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam. He tells Parikshit Maharaj, of course, Shukadeva Goswami, who's more detached than him? The recent styles, he's not into it. It's like, do you roll your cuffs up? It used to be long baggy pants in the 80s. Now it's like they're so short they come up to your ankles. Like, what happened? Did you put that in the dryer? So no, that's the style now. But Shukadeva Goswami and those who follow him, they don't really care so much. It's like, just wrap a piece of cloth around and get going. So Shukadev is how did I get there? I interrupted myself. Huh? Dehapatra. Thank you. Dehapatra kalatradeshu atmasaini sasatsapi tesham pramato nidhanam pashyana pina pashyati. So he says, and I think that's Mukharvind, no? Okay, one second. So he says to Parikshit Maharaj, so all these ways in which you think you're invested in the material world and it's a good investment and you're protected, he said, forget about it. Nothing's going to protect you. And the best person for this, while we were having our programs at our home for 16 years, you'll remember, was Satyadev Prabhu, because he drove an ambulance. Now, if you want to be in a warlike situation, even while you live in a very opulent place like Silicon Valley or San Francisco, by the way, is what's called a luxury city. If you're a brand new buyer, you can't buy anything in San Francisco because it starts maybe for a little shack at about $5 million. Maybe you'll get an apartment with, that you have to fix up for $5 million. It's not a place where you can start. And in that environment, or in Silicon Valley, where all the biggest movers, shakers in the world are, venture capital, they got money waiting for you. It's a war zone if you go on an ambulance, because every day there's some carnage. And oftentimes, people who work on ambulances, they get the same thing that people on battlefields get, which is PTSD. You can become traumatized by seeing the nature of the material world. So Satyadev Prabhu would come back to our programs, and he would like, okay, what happened this week? And he would remind us that anything can happen to anybody at any time. I don't know, it was about 10 years ago, the king or prince and princess of, where was it? Some exotic island somewhere, Conga or some far out island where they still had a kingdom. And it was a paradise. And they're very wealthy because they're princes. It was a prince and a princess, I think, ready to inherit the throne. They were driving on the 101, same way I drive home, and some rambunctious person behind the wheel, weaving in and out, clipped the back of their truck. They rolled over and died. But they were prince and princess, and they had all this money. So this idea, you should take that there's no shelter here in the material world, even if you marry a baroness. It's like, I'm going to marry a baroness, and then I won't worry about life. No, you still have to worry. And it's a war zone here in the material world. So that's Shukadeva Goswami teaching us. So pratyaksham, aitiyam, hear from the wisdom that's passed down just from people talking and the history of the world. And anuman, just figure it out. Do the math and see that you're not going to last here in the material world. So vikalpatsa virajite, it's not a permanent place. Okay, Mukharvind and then Krishna Saka. Sorry, Mukharvind. I hope you didn't disappear.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj. But I just thank you so much for narrating beautiful pastime of Lord Varahadev. I just noticed that he appeared on Shravan Dwadasi. That is like 3 days before of our Bhadra Purnima, which is 9th September. It's like such a nice, like Lord Varaha is, Vaman Dev is appearing, and then arranging all the facilities for us to to do the Bhadra Purnima campaign.
Now, I didn't pay Mukharavinda to say that. He's spontaneously attracted to Sankirtan. But it did remind me of something I wanted to say, because I had this revelation this morning driving here while talking to Loka and Vidarbha. So, and here it is. There's spots on this earth right now that are the biggest Sankirtan spots in the history of the world. You know where they are? I can name a few of them for you. There's Hrishikesh. Has anybody ever been to Hrishikesh? So Devavrata Prabhu came to me in Vrindavan during February, we were there, and he was just there, and he said, and Navina Nirada Prabhu has said it many times because he goes there regularly, and he said, this is a huge Sankirtan spot. All the kinds of people that we're looking for, like seekers, they hear about Hrishikesh, somehow they figure it out, they go up there, and they're just looking around where to find the actual thing. So Hrishikesh, that's a huge Sankirtan spot, if we can send anybody there. But it's not a bad idea if we could set up a permanent table and then just rotate devotees through there. There's a few more. You want to hear where they are? Well, another one, it's already covered. But I'm just giving an example of where these places are on the earth planet right now. Tirupati. Tirupati, of course, they have enlightened management there, and Tirupati is ISKCON, highly elevated souls. And they have perhaps one of the best spots on earth. Do you know why? Because every day of the year, 365 days, the most pious people on earth, just coming to see Balaji and wait in line 8 hours to have a 2-second darshan, are coming to Tirupati. And so they have a gigantic book room because they can't keep up with the demand. They set up a few tables, and everyone loves them there because, like, hey, you're selling the Bhagavatam? Please, have at it. And even they said that at Fisherman's Wharf. When I got kicked out of my airport during the Gulf War, I had to go down to Fisherman's Wharf, and everyone had to have a permit to collect down there. But when the police saw we were distributing books, I said, hey, buddy, if you can sell those, you don't need a permit. And then another one said, yeah, that's what you should be doing, you guys. And so you got Hrishikesh, you got Tirupati. How about Jagannath Puri? It's the same thing. Nobody's doing Puri. And I just talked to Gauranga Prabhu the other day, and he's zooming in on Puri, that this could be like the biggest Sankirtan spot in the world. I've been talking to Madhavananda about it. He's working on that. But if we had a permanent party there, you could just rotate people through. We come up with a grand plan for working Hrishikesh, for working, of course, Tirupati's taken, and then Loka and Vidarbha. Of course, I don't want to blow their spot and send anybody down there, but they said Bali is a huge place. Western tourists come there by the millions every year, and they're very open. And Loka and Vidarbha Prabhu are looking to set up a permanent spot there so people can be constantly distributing books. Anyone want to go to Bali? Nah, I don't like Bali. So now if we do a search around the map, we can find many of these places, and if we have a rotating Sankirtan party, or at least a network that we put together so everyone's sharing information and best practices for these places, and we get them fully stocked and full of devotees, then this is a kind of circulation system. Like in the body, I was mentioning this morning, you hook in an IV. The blood of the world is all contaminated now. So we have to hook up an IV. Govindacharan Prabhu said that's the IV in ISKCON of Silicon Valley. We have to hook up an IV. And the more we can inject this transcendental knowledge and then have a place where people can repair to cultivate it, where this is happening in various places around the world. But the more you instantaneously have a place where people can come in and cultivate the knowledge and live in a kind of ashram situation, or at least have a retreat, then they can start to actually practice Krishna consciousness. What do you think? Prabhu, he's got another spot. Go ahead.
When you were mentioning about Puri, I was just remembering, we 3-4 years back, we had a bus stop in Puri, and we were doing books. We were entering into the buses of the visitors, and we did huge that time. Mukhan Prabhu and Shraddha Mataji, they all led the team.
Yes.
So
It's one of the it's one of the qualities of one of these huge spots that I'm thinking about is that buses are coming in all day long. And if we can network and make friends with the local authorities and show them that we're doing a good thing for society and the money's going back into book distribution and we're trying to help and so forth, and then we get permanent spots there, he's all lit up, I can see. Where's your wife? I think you're going on a trip. It's a serious thing. If we put energy into that building and infrastructure around the world, let's identify these places wherever they are. Yes, they're covered locally, and we'll make sure we support that and bring light to this idea that there's these super spots, we'll call them, around the world. And then we can figure out how to support that, either locally or with international help and things like that. And that will be an infusion in the bloodstream of the world. Just thought I'd throw that in. Yes.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for the beautiful Bhagavatam class. Actually, when you said you were distributing in New York and you got more, they said, move along, so we were distributing last weekend in Lake Tahoe, and we were moving along, and we did huge on the first day, and I thought I figured it out. Now nobody can kick me out. And the next day we started and just entered, there is this what is the name? Sopping Street. What is the name, Prabhu? Gondola. Yeah. So so we were just moving along in Gondola, and then next day we just started, and there was there was this store lady, and she just came, and so many people were taking books from us, and then she said, leave, you can't move along also, read the sign. They put the sign that sidewalk vendors are also not allowed to move also, so what to speak of table, even not moving, but we figured out another spot and we did use there. But
yeah, it's always important to have a plan B, because you can never put all your energy in one place or one technique or anything like that. Always have to be looking where do I go for a backup? That's really important. And it's one of the great experiences of being out in public and book distribution and so forth, and just seeing the various reactions people have, and also learning to tolerate being ignored and being, what is it? Kicked out. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that when you encounter these kinds of friction that inevitably come, but not that much, everybody, not that much. It's 99%. There's only a little bit of that just to teach us something. That he said you get spiritual blood, chid rakta, for your chid sharira. He said to his devotees, don't worry about this if you're criticized, neglected, or kicked out. He said, when you do this on behalf of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then you get spiritual blood in your spiritual body. You're making an investment in your spiritual body. That's kind of nice, right? Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I was just thinking that, for several years, Malini and myself, we always think that we'll take an RV and go around US distributing books. And one day, and more importantly, we have their different prasadam sites, which are very famous, like New York has donuts devotees make. So we are making sure we reach there. But now we are talking about Rishikesh. Shamanagi Mataji saying, maybe we should go to Rishikesh now. Maybe, as you said, maybe we can take turns, 1 month. Every year, different devotees can go and be part of the whole distribution.
Yeah, worldwide Sankirtan party Prabhupada wanted. He wanted to take the devotees all around the world for Sankirtan. So let's look at a route, get a good travel agent, and we can do that. Also about vans and traveling, I think we should have a robust Grihastha traveling Sankirtan party. It means that we can have the infrastructure here or the vehicles. We've been talking about this. We should draw up some plans so that we have several vehicles that Grihasthas can go out in groups. You don't have to go out forever, but you go out for a while. At least start with overnight, a couple days on a weekend, and go out and see what it's like to wake up in the morning and just be on Sankirtan already and hear and chant, away from everything else. There's no other consideration. When I was writing my book, I was talking to Gunagrahi Maharaj. It was such a great interview because he was such a stalwart devotee for so many years and brought hundreds, thousands of new people into Krishna consciousness. Always innovating he was. And so he said when he first got involved in management, he felt overwhelmed. And he asked his GBC, what should I do? And he said, at least every couple weeks you should go out on book distribution. And he said that solved the problem. It's kind of like Giriraj Maharaj's story about the big Harinam at Bombay. So many problems, but they have the 24-hour kirtan. And then it's like, I forgot about what those were, but I'll maybe remember them next week. So if we come up with a scheme for having, we can start with a van and then see how it goes, whatever size is needed. And we have one, Navina Prabhu's van. He said, others can use it, but we'll come up with other sizes, whatever anybody needs, so that there's a growing fleet of vehicles so that Grihasthas, youth, anybody can get on a schedule, that's from England, can go anywhere and just do book distribution and then come back and have the experience. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best idea you ever heard and 1 being like, forget about it, Vaisesika Dasa, what do you think? 108? You guys want to go? He wants to go. Look at Nitai's fired up. Haribol. Traveling Sankirtan. You'll go, right? And Hansapriya? She'll definitely go. Don't tempt her. She'll go out there. Yes, and there's one on the board. I think it's Subhadra, from the hat. We'll call on you in just 1 second.
Actually, I just also want to throw it out there.
What?
I just want to also chime into the Rishikesh part.
Yes.
We do have an ashram already existing,
yes.
And very good friend of ours, Radhakund Prabhu and Hare Krishna Prabhu, who is managing the center there, and they would be happy to, accommodate and host. And I just thought that in Silicon Valley we have very much benefit of having a sabbatical. And one of my precious moments was in 2019 when I took my sabbatical. I went out with Vaisesika Prabhu for a whole month. In 1 week we did Ahmedabad Sankirtan retreat.
I remember that.
And I spent another 2 weeks in Yatra. And in that Yatra, also we did the book distribution in the Jagannath Puri railway bus station and right in front of the temple. So I just want to throw it out there. I know Malini and Sukeshwari were talking about Rishikesh. We can arrange. I'll do all the logistical part. I volunteer. And same goes for the Sankirtan bus. And I remember as a kid growing up in the temple, even the families used to go out. We used to go out. And as a kid, we had a fun time because they would entertain us with the ice cream in the evening. So it's possible. I mean, I personally have grew up in downtown all summer evenings, just being at the book table, and they used to have a Goni Taidit in the back of the bus. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of good memory. And I just wanted to also share that I used to think when I was in college why my parents took us out, but actually that made us a street smart. That's the Prabhupada's movement. So it's not just the educational, but also beside the educational, there's a lot more is needed. And I think it's a wonderful idea for those who are going to have the kids to actually just get trained up right now yourself and then, expand the bus movement, Sankirtan bus movement. And ISV is a base for that, so we may start from here.
Okay, so Hansapriya has ratified. Harival. And if anybody's street smart, it's Hansapriya. That's music to my ears. So this is life, the life of a community when we're taking risks and going out into the great unknown together and see if you can't get kicked out. Okay, we got Subhadra, then Kunja Sevika, then Radhakripa. Subhadra's ready to go on traveling Sankirtan. She's already going out every day to Balboa Park. She wants to get on a bus. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to your story about Guru Bhai Maharaj. When he was in Vrindavan, getting near to leaving his body, I was communicating with him on WhatsApp. And he also mentioned that when he was a manager, he couldn't stand it. So the way he relieves his mind and enlivened himself was to go out every day for like a short time in the afternoon, just maybe even for an hour. And he was encouraging me as a grihasta to go out every day just for a little while after work, maybe half an hour, an hour. And anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
Confirmed. This is important. Yeah, and so every day, just a little bit something helps keep us vital. Kunja Sevika.
Hi, Krishna. It's really nice to hear Gunagari Maharaj's name being mentioned time and again, because the reason that I'm sitting here today is because of him as well. So I also wanted to be the first one to sponsor that Sankirtan van for our temple.
One Sankirtan van. So we need to line up the routes and who might be able to go out when. We've got Radhakripa Prabhu, and then we have. Okay, go ahead, Sukeshwari.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, to add to your point about other spots which typically I found very useful is in certain areas when there is a Bhagavatam Saptah in your own areas, which is a weekly Bhagavatam lecture series which happens for any reasons. So I found in our village there was a Bhagavatam Sabha when I went actually last time to India, and I found that I was in Vrindavan, and I found that on the Sunday there are going to be a completion of Bhagavatam Saptah. So I took 2 boxes of Bhagavad Gita's to around 80 books, and there were probably 100 people. All of them lined up, and then they knew there's a prasadam also from Vrindavan. I mean, they were so appreciative. So I was just thinking about such spots. Is very easy, and everybody is already in that mood, so it's pretty easy to go there.
Okay, so what we need to do is develop a criteria for what is a super spot. And there'll be certain elements that define it. It has to reach a certain threshold. And then we'll make a map of the whole world and keep adding on the super spots. And then we can have a tour that goes around, or the locals can become more aware of it. What is a super spot? Who wants to just work super spots for the rest of their life? 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on, say yes. Yes. Yeah, when somebody gives an opportunity, just go yes, and then Lord Nityananda will arrange it. Yeah, so we'll identify super spots, and then we can focus on them. You can't hit a target you can't see. So when we define these targets and understand like how to be prepared for them, then we can hit it. And it's definitely a way by going for the cream that we can expand and get more people involved. Sukeshwari.
Prabhu, I was just thinking that since we have the idea now and most of the kids and everybody is off for summer, so this actually would be a good time. We're going to go to LA anyway. Several of us are going in the bus. So I was just thinking maybe a day or two, doing...
Add an extra day or two on the way there.
And explore that thing of distributing more number of books. Just a suggestion.
I think it's a great idea. Just add books to any excursion. Just like with our yatra, when we did our yatra, then the first couple of years, then we thought, this is too much like National Geographic. Just go and look around, take a few pictures and come home. But it should be a Sankirtan yatra, so everyone feels like we're doing service. wherever we go, do service to the Dambasis and the people who visit there by giving out books. And it makes a completely different experience, right? Right. Okay. So,
Hare Krishna, Guru
oh yes, please, go ahead, Dhanavari.
Thank you. Please accept my humble
If
obeisances.
anybody else has their hand up, please let me know about it, because I can't see the screen that well.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, thank you. Very nice idea. It makes me very happy. I just want to share something small. Last week we went spontaneously, myself and other two devotees. We went to an Indian store, grocery store, and we didn't know. I mean, we had lots of books been sitting there, Indian languages, so we thought, let's just try. And first we went to the apartments, and it was long weekend. It wasn't a big success, but then we went to, like you said, plan B. So we went to, we had a plan B to go to Indian store, and we had a huge success. In 1.5 hours, we collected like $400 of Lakshmi, and all the languages of all the books really went well, and we just had lots of fun, and we are going again today somewhere else. So thank you so much for inspiring, and all of you. Hare Krishna. And today, Guru Maharaj, the Urdu books, language in Urdu books, we are going to go to that spot where the Urdu-speaking people are going to be there. So hopefully, please pray for us. Haribo.
May you do huge. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Who's doing Arabic books now? And what's our goal for Arabic books?
We placed a lot during the December, and we are now not going to stores because we want to wait for them to be wait for it to be refilled. But we just found out there are some festivals that are happening in August. There are 2 festivals that Ananda Kishore Prabhu sent, so we will go to those 2 festivals in this August to give out Arabic and Farsi books.
Okay, and as much preparation as possible to look into the ways that people are attracted culturally. If there is a flip book that had the great personalities that have been good thinkers who are part of that culture, maybe it crosses over some appreciation. People need to see that, besides just the book, which is really an eye-opener for them to see, we took the trouble to translate it, but try to find out the icons in the culture. Find out more about the culture, get an education and see where the places are that are revered and the people, and find out what's the route, the fastest route to their heart to be able to take a huge stack of Arabic books and try to stack them up so that we do multiple copies all at the same time. And please keep in mind, for those of you who actually keep score about things, is that you get many more points, sometimes 7 times more for an Arabic book than you do for a regular book. There's a reason for that. My godbrother, Satyanarayan Prabhu, back in the early days, around, I forget, early 1970s, he went to Prabhupada and had a short audience with him, and he said, Prabhupada, I'd like to become, and he wanted to become a doctor. And so he thought to get Prabhupada's acquiescence, he would say, Ayurvedic doctor. And so he said, Prabhupada, I'd like to be an Ayurvedic doctor. And Prabhupada said, the real medicine is in these books. He said, just try to work with my books. Actually, there was more to it, more subtlety, because he sort of didn't react to that at the first time. And the second time, he gave him some indication, just work with my books as the real medicine. And that's what he's done throughout his life. And when Prabhupada didn't give him much time or attention, just a slight indication. But then when he did take to distributing Prabhupada's books, and he went out with Vaisesika and a few other devotees who were on the library party, and they had distributed books to some Muslim universities, which Prabhupada had done himself also before he had a movement. He was all by himself. And he came back to Prabhupada and told him that we had gone to these Muslim universities, and they took standing orders, which means the books weren't even written yet, but they ordered all of them whenever they'd come out. And Prabhupada then became wide-eyed. And he said, anyone of my followers who distributes books like this to the Muslim-speaking world, I take the dust from their feet and I put it on my head. And so as Satyanarayan Prabhu points out, he didn't say that about any other service. So that's a niche within a niche. Book distribution got his attention, but that Arabic book distribution or book distribution within that culture really got his attention. And so there's good reason for giving extra energy for preparing for that, because Prabhupada liked it. And also, there was a time at which the Iron Curtain was so strong, and there were devotees who were going behind the Iron Curtain at risk of their lives or lifetime imprisonment to distribute transcendental literatures, including our beloved Devamrita Swami. And they just spent time thinking how to get books into the country. You want to know one of the ways they did it? Yes. This is a real innovation. They found this bridge that cargo ships would go under in order to get behind the Iron Curtain. So they'd get on the bridge, and when the boat was going over, they timed it by practicing how they could drop little packets and they'd land on the ship. So besides smuggling books in, no one knows if those actually made it or not, or what happened to them after they were on the ship. But that's the extent to they went of distributing books in those forbidden places. And as Devamrita Swami said, at the time when Prabhupada said even a few books that are distributed here, it could change the whole environment, the devotees thought, well, that would require a lot of faith because it looks like it's indelible. It's never going to change. And they had full power over everybody, the people in the government. But then some miraculously, and even historians aren't really sure what sped up the drop of the wall and everything like that. One can only hear the echo of Prabhupada's words that this transcendental knowledge distributed in these various places will have this kind of effect. And we do know the history. When people got a hold of it, it changed their lives and they became messianic about distributing it. Good word, messianic. So we should do so also. This is what the life breath of the Sankirtan movement is thinking how to do good for others. And the way to deliver that, one of the best ways is through the written word, written kirtan. It can go everywhere. It gets packaged up as a little delivery system that goes all over the world. Okay, last point on the board, and then we'll take a few announcements. Tadiya Seva, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dhanavad Pranam, all glories to Prabhupada. So I was just thinking when you said Tirupati and Rishikesh and Jagannath Puri, there is one famous place in South India. It's coming up really big now. It's called Yadadri. This is where Lord Nrsimhadev appeared in a cave in 5 different forms. It's becoming very big Tirtha Yatra now. Devotees in Hyderabad and Secunderabad can explore for Sankirtan.
Okay, put it on the map. Another one just came to my head is Govardhan Hill at Kartik time. If we can, of course, a lot of these places, believe it or not, you definitely have to get a permit, because even in Govardhan, outside our own ashram, when we set up tables, they wanted to have a little, they wanted us to get permission. So looking into it, I think, is really important, and just stimulating conversation and then finding out the ways and means that we can test it out. And I'm sure there's super spots all over in America, and they're probably way underutilized. But let's research it and see what we can do, and hook up the IV from ISV. So now we have opportunity for a couple of announcements. One of them will be from the Bhakti community. We'll talk about the ongoing program for providing a habitat in which we can survive and discuss bhakti. And next we'll have announcements from the Sankirtan department. Malini Devi Dasi is the co-Sankirtan leader. Our other co-Sankirtan leader, I think, is in India looking for super spots. Or maybe working them. Would you like to say a few things? Haribo!
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. So last week we had very successful traveling Sankirtan parties. One team led by Krishna Prabhu and his dear wife. Grihasa Sankirtan traveling Sankirtan party, and one by Kautuk Karna Prabhu. We heard some stories already today. And we also had some spots where we went to Indian stores because last week was a long weekend, July 4th. So not many people door to door. So we went to stores instead. And what I wanted to share, one story is that there was one person from Udupi, probably this could be also another super spot, Udupi, where he is from that place, and Udupi is traditionally very, very sacred, and they worship Lord Krishna there very reverently. And he saw the Bhagavatam, and he had a small child who was, I think, less than 2 years old. She was running high fever, but he was holding her anyway. And then he looked at all the books and he said, I really want to take these books. And the daughter was crying. And then he said, okay, let me put her in the car. And he wanted to leave, but and he came back and said, can you show me one more time? And and then I could see that his heart was torn between both. And he wanted to, of course, take care of his daughter. So he brought his daughter back. He gave her something to pacify her. Then finally he took the Bhagavatam and he said, I want to do more of this because this is my culture. This is my culture where I belong. And I want to read. I don't know if I'll finish reading these books, but I will start by taking a set of Bhagavatam and putting it in my home. So that was a wonderful experience that we had outside the Indian stores. So today we will still go out again. We will go because it's a holiday bit because of summer vacation. We might do more of outside spots than doing door to door. So please join us. And the spots for today, I saw there is one Moirwood reservation already for this week. So would you like to announce where you're going for Western Sankirtan?
Hare Krishna. Actually, there are two spots that I know right now. One is we are going with Prema Prabhu and Premi Mataji. We are going to San Jose Flea Market. Yeah. This and Adin Prabhu. 4 of us will be doing that spot.
It's a Spanish-speaking crowd.
Yes. And the other spot, Krishna Sakha Prabhu is going to a festival.
There is Audiotistic Mountain View. There is this mega, 50,000 people attending in Soul Line Amphitheater.
50,000 people?
Attending the music festival here in Mountain View.
What kind of music is it?
I don't know what music, but...
I just asked because it makes a difference in the crowd.
Oh, yeah. It is audiotistic, so I'm not sure.
It's what?
It's called Audiotistic, so yeah.
That's the name of the...
Festival.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're into audio.
And one team is going to Santa Cruz also.
Okay.
Semi-super spot.
Santa Cruz? Oh, and what's the name?
No, I was just saying it's a semi-super spot.
Semi-super spot. Or it's Naimatika. There's some that are permanent and some that are they come and go. They're seasonal. So we can name those two, put them in all in categories. Go for the cream of the cream.
That's all, Prabhu.
Thank you. Okay, just as a reminder to everyone, 1 second, Jai Madhava Prabhu. A reminder to everybody who's listening anywhere, and that is that we have a worldwide goal for ISKCON, working together as one global team to distribute at least 43,000 sets of Srimad Bhagavatams this year. Because last year we did a little over 35,000. And to keep pace with 23% increase every year, so that by 2026, we have the capacity worldwide to distribute at least 100,000 sets of Bhagavatams. That's only $18 million, which is nothing. So everyone, please keep your heart, and this is the button. We have buttons and stickers with this 100K 2026. You can wear these proudly. Where's my thing? I'm going to wear one of these. And we have stickers, buttons, and keep in mind here also, for those of you who are part of ISV, that we have the unprecedented goal of distributing at least 2,500 sets of Bhagavatams before Bhadra, or by Bhadra Purnima, right? So that's not nothing. We have a good head start, but if everyone, as Malini pointed out a couple weeks ago, or last week, there's a phenomena which we don't subscribe to. It's a social phenomena which says diffused responsibility. This is actually a thing. The more bystanders there are when you see, for instance, somebody needs help in an accident, the more bystanders there are, the less likely any individual's likely to go forward and help, because everyone thinks somebody else is going to do it. But I really liked how Malini pointed out that we don't have that, because everyone puts the weight on their own heads thinking we have to do at least 2,500 sets of Bhagavatams here, even though we have no idea exactly how it's going to happen. In our experience, we know that by taking the risk to say we're going to do it, then Lord Chaitanya gives us insight, special mercy, and resources to do it. And that's what keeps us alive, is that next thing to please Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and try to increase our capacity. Whoever dies with the most capacity wins. Hare Krishna. So now we have Jai Madhava Prabhu, who's going to introduce two very special guests that we have with us here today. And he's also going to talk about Bhakti community. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisance. As you mentioned, Maharaj, we are fortunate that we have Prema Rupa Madhav Prabhu and Prema Rupini Madhavi Mataji in our Bay Area congregation today. They are Sankirtan leaders of Latin America, and they founded Comunidad Bhakti. And they painstakingly translated all the content in Spanish for over close to a year. And then they have been conducting Bhakti Circle for close to months. So I request please, Prem Rupa Madhav Prabhu, if you can come forward and say a few words, if that's okay with you.
Give him a warm welcome. A little more. A little more.
Hare Krishna. Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you, all of you, for this warm receive for us. We are very happy to be here. For us, it's like a dream. Many times we were looking all of you by the screen, but now we can have your personal association, of course, of Gurudev and Guru Ma. And we are very happy. Yeah, Comunidad Bhakti is we are doing there since October Yeah, and Comunidad Bhakti is in Spanish. We are doing every week the circle of Comunidad Bhakti, and then we have once a week also the Shapa. We have Shapa session by Zoom from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. and they are attending like eight people, 8 members each week. And yeah, it's very nice to share with them. We want to thank Jaima Prabhu and Pavani Mataji for the support, for the empowerment that they gave to us. They take care of us a lot, and the blessings of you, Gurudev. Without those blessings, we could not do anything. And all the blessings and the good wishes of all of you that touch our hearts, and we came here to get more inspiration from all of you and have your association. So.
I only want to say that I'm so happy to be here with all of you, and especially with Guru Maharaj. I really was waiting for this moment, like for so many time. I was praying Krishna to have all of your association. All of you are our inspiration. We are in Argentina, but our heart is here. So thank you so much. We are so happy. Thanks Krishna and Radha for let us being here. So
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhaprabhu and Prem Rupini Madam Mataji. They have been lovely inspiration for us for last couple of days being with them and knowing where their thought process, how with the humble mood that they always approach all the service, and how lovely they both collaborate and work together is an inspiration for Pavani and I to see how we can also work together in Sankirtan mood. So thank you so much for inspiring us. And as we announced last week, we have a program for newcomers today titled "Don't Invite." We do have quite a few registrants who are looking forward for a wonderful event today. And we daily, every day, 5 to 7 a.m. We do also have the mantra meditation for newcomers. So in case if you know any newcomers who might benefit from that mantra meditation cycle, please do ask them to join. And those were the announcements. Thank you so much.
And now we have an opportunity for our Guru Puja, and we're going to put away all the seats, asanas, and roll up this big carpet, and then we'll assemble in 4.5 minutes, 4 minutes and 32 seconds, right in front of Srila Prabhupada's Vyasasana. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpaduruscha kripasinabhe vacha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha nantakoti vaishnavi ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande Haribol. I'm going in there anyway. You could direct your attention to the Jumbotron. We'll be reciting a few prayers of gratitude to our spiritual masters. Namashreshta manamapi shachi putra matra surupam shirupam tasya grajam uruparim maturim goshtavatim radha kundam girivaramoho radhika madhavasham prapto yasya pratita kripaya shri gurum tandatosmi. Hey Guru Jnanadadina Bandho Swananda Data Karunaika Sindho Vrindavana Sinahitavata Prasida Radha Pranaya Prachara. Hey Dina Bandho Karunaika Sindho Kuru Prasada Maya Manda Mudhe Laksha Parade Bahupapa Gadhe Tatpada Padme Stumatishta Krishna. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachi Mata, the association of Srila Sarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami, and his older brother Sanatan Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radhakunda and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Sri Radhika and Madhava in Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon me. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I am a doleful and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into a dense myriad of sins. Therefore grace me with your mercy, so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet and on Sri Krishna. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevalabha Gahati Shadma. Bando mui savadana mate. Bando mui savadana mate. Jahara prasade bhai bhavato riyajai. Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoy te. Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoy te. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Oikya. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Oikya. Anakori ho mane asha. Anakori ho mane asha. Shri Guru Charane Rati Eshe Uttamagati. Shri Guru Charane Rati Eshe Uttamagati. Jai Prashade Pure Sarva Asha. Jai Prashade Pure Sarva Asha. Chakudan dilo je janme janme prapushe. Chakudan dilo je janme janme prabhushe. Divya gyan hre prokashito. Divya Gyan Hriday Prokashito. Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Abhidya Vinasa Jate. Prema Bhakti Ja Hoite Abhidya Vinasa Jate. Vede Gai Jahara Charito. Vede Gai Jahara Charito. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu. Lokanath Lokera Jivana. Lokanath Lokera Jivana. Ha ha Prabhu Kora Doya Dehamore Padachaya. Ha Prabhu Kora Doya Dehamore Padachaya. Ebe Jashku Shikti Bhuvana. Ebe Jashku Shikti Bhuvana. Ha ha Prabhu Kora Doya Dehamore Padachaya. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Rishatadine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Gadadhar. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rachit Kalindita Tabipina San Takaravo. Thank you. Virinari Vadana Kamalasvadamadupa Rama Shambhu Brahma Pati Ganesha Chittapada Jagannatha Swami Narayana Patagami Jagannatha Swami Narayana Patagami Avatu me Jai Sabke Benu Rati Shiki Pik Sham Kartitate Ulam Netrante Sacharaka Saksham Vidadhate Sada Shrima Vrindavana Vasati Lila Parichayo Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagani Mahabhatu Me Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagani Mahabhatu Me Mahamorde Sire Kanakaru Sire Nilashikare Prasadanta Sahaja Balabhadrena Pulina Subhadramadhyasta Sakala Seva Bhavasarado Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagani Abhatu Me Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagani Namastu Me Paparabara Jala Jala Dasheni Ruchiro Rama Bani Rama Suradamala Pankeruha Mukha Surendra Raja Shuti Ganashika Gita Charito Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagani Mahabhatu Me Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagani Mahabhatu Me Ratarudho Kachan Bhakti Milita Budeva Patalai Suti Pradurbhavam Pratipanamupa Kanya Sadaya Daya Sindhurbandhu Sakala Jagatam Sindhu Sutaya Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagani Mahabhatu Me Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagani Mahabhatu Me Parabrahma Pida Kubalaya Dulo Mulanayano Nivasi Nilagrani Hita Charano Nanta Shirasi Rasanando Radha Sarasa Bapura Lingana Suto Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagani Mahabhatu Me Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagani Mahabhatu Me Navayache Rajanda Shakanakamanikya Vibhavam Nayache Hamranyam Sakala Janakamyam Maravadhu Sadakale Kale Matapatina Gita Charito Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagani Mahabhatu Me Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagani Mahabhatu Me Aratam Samsaram Drutara Saram Surapate Aratam Papanam Vikatim Param Yaravapate Aho Dinenate Nihita Charano Nishitamita Jagannatha Swami Patagami Avatume Jagannatha Swami Patagami Avatume Jagannatha Ashtakam Punyam Ya Patet Parayata Suchi Sarva Papa Vishudhatma Vishnu Lokam Sagachati. One more time. This is to Shiva Ranjani because we're crossing over. So it goes. Jagannatashtakam Punyam. Just Sarva Papa Vishudhatma Vishnu Lokam Sagachati. Jagannatashtakam Punyam Ya Patet Prayata Suchi Sarva Papa Vishudhatma Vishnu Lokam Sagachati. One more time. Jagannatashtakam Punyam Ya Patet Prayata Shuchi Sarva Papa Vishudhatma Vishnu Lokam Sagachati. One more time. Jagannatashtakam Punyam Ya Patet Prayata Shuchi Sarva Papa Vishudhatma Vishnu Lokam Sagachati. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada. Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Haribo! One more time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Keep that drum. Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Last chance. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Jagannath Swami ki jai, Shri Jagannath Rath Yatra ki jai, Shri Shri Panchatattva ki jai, Shriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki jai, Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsimhadev ki jai, Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Gaur Premanande. Happy Ekadashi. Today, fasting till death. Just kidding. Please don't die. Any other announcements? The cooks.
Hare Krishna. Today's prasadam was cooked by Hansa Priya Mataji and Shama Bhakta Prabhu.
Sadhu, sadhu. You said Hansa Priya? How'd you do it? We saw you in here. It's a mystical power. Shari Dadvijaja Jadendriya Kaheka Jibe Pele Vishaya Shogore Tarma Jijivayati Loba Mosu Durmati Take jeta katita samsare Krishna Bodha Doyamoy Gauri Bade Jihwa Jai Shaprashadana Dilubhai Shayanamrita Pao Radha Krishna Guna Gao Preme Dako Shri Chaitanya Nihitai Preme Dako Shri Chaitanya Nihitai Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmi Vaishnave Sapa Punyam Tambajan Vishka Sona Vidayate Prasade Sarva Srikanam Anirasya Pudayate Pasanate Tato Yashi Uspaya Padustate Trayopa Vishka Sankana Vasavankar Shashitaha Sita Bodhino Dasa Samayan Jaimahi Bhagavat Shri Mahaprasadaki Gaura Premanande Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Please come take a Kadashi Prasadam. Haribo. Gaur Premanande. Panchakoptarusha Kripasindave Chapatitanam Padibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nantakoti Vaishnaviniki Jai.